Hello there, and welcome to the Sharing Wisdom podcast. I am your host, Angie, and today's kind of a special podcast because last week was a super duper big day for me. On June 15th, I launched my first book, The Non-Negotiable You, Mindset Mastery for Daily Success. And it's been surreal, the whole experience, from starting to write the book, 2 years ago, to going through the publishing and the marketing and all the different phases of it. It's just been, looking back now, just an amazing process. Definitely some tears shed, some values skipped along the way, some late hours and sacrifices made, but also worth it. And I wanted to bring to you all today what the non-negotiable you really is. I mean, when people hear that, they're like, what exactly does that mean? And in simple terms, the non-negotiable you is the version of you that is capable of living and performing at their highest level. It's the version of you that is inspired, that can create the greatness that you know you're capable of, but you haven't quite yet figured out what that is. It's the version of you that has like this peace and contentment and is truly living their life the way they want to and defining their own success and achieving it. And I know that all sounds like a lot, but it really, really is true. And the non-negotiable you came about through a few different things. One, my own personal journey and where I was and the changes I made in my life, but also the years that I've sat down with clients and helped them overcome their obstacles. And I kept hearing and learning the same things that were coming up for people and realized that a lot of times the problems and the challenges that we all have are very much the same. They just show up in a different light and on a different level. And if you've listened to me for a while, you've probably heard me say that before. So I started kind of tweaking things in my own life. Back in 1997, when I became a financial advisor with Morgan Stanley, I took on that job and I probably wasn't super equipped for it. They required a 4-year degree, which I didn't have. I pretty much just pestered the sales manager until he gave me an opportunity, convincing him that it would be a big, big mistake if he didn't. And so, Chuck, if you're out there, thank you for that. But I came into this job probably, like I said, a little bit undergunned and not equipped for it. I believed in myself because I knew I was capable of anything, but not necessarily, the book smart aspect of it. But at any rate, why I share that with you is because as I went through that process, I became a little inauthentic. I showed up as who people thought I should be. I said the things that I thought people wanted me to say. I acted the way that people wanted me to act, kind of formed this different version of myself that I thought I needed to be very successful. With all of that, you start filtering everything through the external world. You start measuring your every thought and your every action through what other people think. And it was a few years before I realized, what in the world am I doing? Why am I showing up as the way that people think I need to show up? Or why was I even thinking that people needed me to show up that way? But it led me to realize that I was literally spending probably a good 50% of my bandwidth worrying about what other people think, worrying about what would people say, worrying if people liked me, if I'd get the next client, if I would break the record. I was so hung up in so many external pieces and so much fear and worry about other people's opinions that I realized, my gosh, I'm only using 50% of my bandwidth here. I'm wasting 50 of it on nonsense, on external noise, stuff that's totally irrelevant and absolutely uncontrollable. And that was a game changer for me. Realizing that made me realize that if I believed that I was capable of great things and that I believed I was capable of anything I want, I surely needed to show up with 100% of my bandwidth, of my mental capacity, of me. And that's what changed everything for me. And I started on the journey to slowly tweak all of those pieces. And as I moved more into personal development coaching instead of performance coaching, I saw these same things showing up for clients, worrying about what other people think, not putting themselves first, not living in the present moment, letting their thoughts rule their mind and control their day. And those two pieces collided, what I was helping clients with and what I was doing in my own life. And that's what birthed the non-negotiable you. The version of you that is capable of anything you want. And I stand by that. I truly believe in us, you all, that we are capable of anything we want, but it requires a certain type of mentality. It requires a certain version of you. It requires a version of you that is non-negotiable, committed to yourself, committed to what fills you up, committed to putting yourself first, committed to being truthful with yourself, taking responsibility for actions, being present, controlling your mind, and being authentic. If you can nail all of those and live in this non-negotiable version of you, you land in a place of inspiration, where that is truly where you create your greatness. When you look at super successful people and you're like, how did they do that? Whatever gave them that idea? How do they do this every single day? I'll tell you how they do it. They show up as the non-negotiable version of themselves, and they're in this space that is so plentiful of their own ideas and creativity and peace that they can come up with these ideas. They can take this action because they're not bogged down with all the nonsense from the external world about what people think and how they have to show up for people. That is what the non-negotiable you is all about. And I reflect back on one of my clients as I took her through this process, and she said to me in one of our final sessions, she said, "This feels so weird. Like, I feel like I should be worried about something. I feel like I should have more to do on my list. I feel like I have too much time." And it was this moment of her realizing, like, oh my gosh, this is what I've wanted this whole time. But now that I'm here, it feels a little uncomfortable because it's not filled with all the garbage that we typically have in our space. But that's truly this place that you can now create your greatness from, because you have the bandwidth, because you have the confidence, you have your authenticity, and you're taking responsibility. So that's the goal here, you all. You have a life that you want to live. You have success that you want to reach. You get to define it all, and you can reach it all if you show up as the non-negotiable version of you. But what does that even look like? And the book, of course, will take you through that. I want you to read the book, and I want you to do the exercises within it. But to give you a glimpse at, what is all that about, I like to look at it in 3 sections. That first section is this place of clarity. You can't grow if you don't know. I say that all the time. But you have to have clarity of a few things. You have to have clarity around what your values are and what fills you up. You have to have self-awareness to understand how you're feeling, what you're thinking. You have to have awareness around your choices, what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to. You have to have a massive amount of clarity in order to be able to lead yourself right, in order to see what you need to see to get you where you want to go. So getting that clarity is that first piece of it, because when you become clear, guess what? You become empowered. And when we're empowered, now we're ready to take action. We're feeling confident. We're feeling full of power. That's what empowered is. But you get there by getting clarity from yourself. And then when you start to feel empowered, you're controlling your mind. Your mind isn't controlling you. No more feeling and thinking things that you don't want to. You are in control of your mind. You also are taking responsibility for your choices, for your actions, for what you want in your life, whether it's joy, money, success, relationships, love, whatever. You're in the driver's seat taking responsibility for it. That's empowerment. No more victim mentality. No more making up excuses. You show up and you take responsibility. And you start to show up with authenticity because you like who you are, because you are clear on who you are. You feel empowered. You've been taking responsibility. So you start to embrace this authenticity and trust yourself. Truly trust yourself so that no more are you walking around looking for everyone else's opinions and thoughts on things. You turn to yourself. And when you start guiding yourself and trusting yourself like that, you start to elevate. You are above all the noise. I mean, can you imagine that for a minute? What it would be like for you to be full of peace and contentment, to not be bothered with the small things, to not stress and worry all the time about the future, to truly trust yourself because you show up every day and take responsibility and control your mind. Show up as the non-negotiable version of you, taking action and making things happen. When you elevate like that, that's when you arrive at that point of inspiration. You don't even know what you are capable of right now. That's why people often say, like, I know I'm capable of more, but I don't know what it is yet. Well, you'll never, ever figure that out with all the noise and nonsense in your head. You just won't. It's the hard truth. You have to have a space that's conducive to being creative, to hearing what you want, to pursuing your dreams. Bandwidth. And when you have that, then you can start to really tap into what you want and what you're capable of. That's where greatness comes from. And as I sit here, I think about some of my most successful clients and them reaching through those plateaus. And it truly is like I can see when they broke through that barrier of what other people thought. And they let all that go. And all of a sudden, it's like I get a visual. I can see them literally elevating above all the chatter and the noise and kind of rising up above that to where that is no longer a factor in their day-to-day life. And they're out there pursuing their dreams and their goals as the non-negotiable version of them because they have the space to do so. So put yourself in that situation right now. For me, it was a change of no longer always trying to please everybody and worry about what they thought. It was no longer hitching my happiness to everybody else's. It was no longer achieving things because I wanted somebody's approval and recognition. It was this total transformation of the non-negotiable you is about me guiding myself, not everyone else guiding me. So I want you to visualize that right now. Can you see yourself above kind of all the noise, all the chaos that kind of consumes you and takes up your precious, most valuable bandwidth capacity? Can you imagine operating day to day from a place of peace and joy and inspiration, desire, creativity, freedom? That's what it's like. And you know what the best part about all this? It's not rocket science. What I've created, the book that I wrote, is not overcomplicated. I'm not asking you all to do crazy things. I'm not giving you some how to, be the best salesperson or manage your time or be the number one leader. I'm giving you the tools to simply look in the mirror, to tend to yourself, to create this non-negotiable version of you that is truly capable of anything. And I want you to start using that word. I like to say to myself all the time, what would the non-negotiable version of me do? And it's a way to constantly elevate yourself. When I don't feel like going to the gym, when I don't feel like, sticking to the commitments that I made in my business or my health, whatever it may be in any aspect at all, my relationships, I just simply say, the non-negotiable me. What would the non-negotiable me do? And it's a compass for me. It leads me right to that higher version of myself. And it's become a non-negotiable. How does that process work? I've outlaid it for you in the book. I've given you client stories to listen to relate to. I've given you worksheets in there so that you can actually print them and go through the process of figuring out your values, your life assessment, different pieces that are going to help you create the non-negotiable version of you. And don't worry about it not being in there. It is. I promise you that version of you is inside. And if you stick to some of the foundational principles that I outlined in the book for you, you're going to find it. And life is going to start to look different for you. But it's a choice. And for me, it was a choice. I had to decide whether I wanted to keep going down that road I was going, or if I wanted to do the work, to stay committed, to change the way that I lived and the way that I saw the world. And all of this that I'm sharing with you is about choice. What do you choose? Just like me and the path that I was on, I chose to do something different. You have the power to do that too. And like I said, this isn't rocket science. It's not the hardest thing to do. It just takes commitment and consistency. And I want to encourage you to think about what's on the other side. Is it worth it for you? Do you want change? Do you want to tap into your full potential? Do you want a life that's truly led by you instead of everybody else? Do you want to master your mindset every single day so that you can create the success that you know you're capable of and you dream of? Then this is where to start. Read the non-negotiable you. Do the exercises. Reach out to me if you have a question, you need help. In the show notes, I'll put a link to purchase the book. You can find it on Amazon. I hope the non-negotiable you is ready to come out, because I can't wait to see what you create for yourself.